SpongeBob SquarePants was one of the most formative pieces of media for me growing up. I doubt that I'm unique in that. Ask any Gen Z kid, and they'll tell you all about how funny it is. They'll tell you how emotionally satisfying episodes like Band Geeks were, and they'll probably tell you how good the first movie was. I'm not gonna sit here and try to argue that the first movie is a secret underrated masterpiece or something, but it is a really good kids movie, and an awesome ending for the first 3 seasons of the show. The first 3 seasons are considered to be the golden age of the series. Sure, there are a lot of good moments in the later episodes, and some people even swear by the more current stuff. And if you can find enjoyment in these episodes, more power to you. But even as a kid, I could tell that the episodes from season 4 and beyond weren't as good. And I think part of the reason for that is because of the emotional investment I had in these characters. I mean, you can't expect me to be happy for Squidward in episodes like Band Geeks and Squidville, and then turn around and laugh at him being miserable in episodes like House Fancy and Squid's Visit. And don't even get me started on Good Neighbors. Are you trying to tell me that you think that guy who was ranting about the ending of this episode was right? I do. And I'm tired of pretending that he wasn't. And don't give me the, oh, it's just a kid's show, it's not that deep, because people only make that argument when someone complains about how bad something for kids is. But you know what? You're the one who clicked on this video with some dramatic title like, The Secret Queer Themes of the SpongeBob SquarePants Movie, or whatever I decide to call it. I haven't decided yet. Speaking of which, I should probably get to the main topic of the video, but I give all this information because I want you to know that this show means something to me. SpongeBob as a character means something to me. When I was in 2nd grade, we had to write a couple sentences and draw a picture of someone who was our hero, someone who we looked up to. I naturally put down SpongeBob. He's kind, hardworking, and he loves his friends more than anything. He's passionate about his work, and he carries that passion through everything in his life. But then I saw that all the other boys in the class chose to write about their dads, so I just started over and did the same. Even at that young age, I felt the pressure of society to value a masculine figure in my life over something that actually, truly spoke to me. The point of this video essay is to highlight the queerness present in this movie, along with its relationship with masculinity and growing up. But that brings us to the movie, which I'm going to assume that you've watched and are also at least a little familiar with the show, because otherwise, why else would you be watching this? Whatever, SpongeBob's main personal conflict in the movie is wanting to be a man. SpongeBob's age is kind of ambiguous in the show. He's written to be a little childish and definitely naive, but he lives in a house on his own and he has a full-time job. Nowadays, most adults my age can't do either of those. But they then have him go to boating school, so that they can get situations where he's in a school setting. And it never feels out of place because SpongeBob tends to act childish. That's why Mr. Krabs passed him up for the manager position at the Krusty Krab too. But it's not just being an adult that keeps SpongeBob from getting that promotion, is it? It's not being a man. The movie conflates being a mature adult with being a man. Like a manly man with a mustache and muscles, you know? While we're here, I should probably explain the concept of gender being a performance since I reference it later on. How do you know a stranger you see out in public is a man or a woman? You look at how they dress, how they carry themselves, their behavior. If someone is wearing a dress, you can pretty easily assume that they're a woman, because that behavior is exhibited by women. We do a bunch of these things to a point where it becomes a performance, and it's so ingrained in us from a young age that we don't even register it as acting. It's just how we are. That's how you get people who say that girls are biologically predisposed to like the color pink and other equally stupid shit. You know, mustache is man, shaving is woman, hunting is man, raising baby is woman, washing your ass is woman, not so much as washing your hands after taking a piss is man. But I could go all day with this. The point is when someone cannot or does not perform to the standards of what society says their gender is supposed to do, they're treated like less of a man or woman, and sometimes, and most relevant to this discussion, not even seen as an adult or a real person at all. And I'm not even mentioning people who refuse to conform to either side. I know it seems like I'm cutting myself off, but don't worry, we'll touch more on it towards the end. I just really want to prime you for it right now, and it also just kind of feels like a good idea to actually mention the main topic towards the beginning of the video, which brings us to the other side of the video. Let me introduce you to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie video game. All the footage you're seeing is from me streaming the game a few months ago with the Community Cut mod installed. It adds some quality of life improvements as well as graphical updates. Although it was a bitch to install, it's pretty cool and I definitely recommend checking it out if you want to play the game yourself. There will be a link in the description to the mod page. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie game is not just a tie-in to the movie, but a sequel to the much more beloved SpongeBob game, Battle for Bikini Bottom. I'm not going to get into the relationship of the two games, just know that the movie game is built on the back of Battle for Bikini Bottom. The movie game follows the plot of the movie for the most part. So the structure of this video is going to be us going through the movie, but calling out parts of the game that are relevant. And don't worry, this isn't one of those reviews where I go through the whole movie and break the whole thing down, give you a play-by-play of everything that happens. Like I said, I want you to have already seen the movie, and I mean, again, some of the show. But I'll just be talking about the parts relevant to the main theme of identity. So, let's begin the analysis. I think when your movie's main theme centers around self-perception, starting with a fantasy dream sequence is a great idea. We begin with SpongeBob dreaming about being this macho action cop type character. He has to save this weak beta male fish who was served a Krabby Patty with no cheese. Now, this scene is doing more than just juxtaposing this Mission Impossible-esque fantasy against being the manager of a fast food restaurant. Think about what these types of characters represent in our culture. They are a stereotype of masculinity. Specifically the strong, brash, macho type who gets the job done. It's clear that this is the type of character who a child would see as a strong male role model. So for someone like SpongeBob, this is what he sees being a grown-up, or being a man, to be. And when he performs his manly duties of protecting the weak among him, he is lauded and celebrated. Once SpongeBob wakes up and starts getting ready, he's the version of himself we all know and love. He's just a goofy little guy. Before he goes to work, he stops by Patrick's house, and they plan to go to Goofy Goober's ice cream party boat after the Krusty Krab 2 opening ceremony. And they sing and dance to the Goofy Goober theme song. The two of them do this for themselves and for each other, and because it makes them happy. This isn't like the performance of masculinity that SpongeBob put on in his dream earlier. This is him genuinely being happy, being himself, because nobody is putting him down for it. So he gets to the opening ceremony and makes a complete what of himself because he didn't actually get the promotion. Mr. Krabs says it's because he is an immature kid and isn't ready for the responsibility. The problem, though, is that SpongeBob is much more hardworking and competent at his job than Squidward. Squidward is not just lazy, but also constantly unpleasant to everyone at work. But Squidward performs masculinity and maturity much better than SpongeBob. Which is saying something because Squidward is not a paragon of traditional masculinity, by which I mean he's gay as fuck, but I think it's worth mentioning how crushing it is for SpongeBob to be rejected by Mr. Krabs like this. Mr. Krabs is often treated like a father figure for SpongeBob to look up to, and when SpongeBob is expecting to be appreciated for his skill and dedication, being told no like this is the worst thing that could happen to him. We're then introduced to King Neptune and his daughter Mindy. King Neptune is about to send the royal crown polisher to the dungeon for 20 years for the crime of touching the crown. But Mindy lets him go, begging her father to be more kind and compassionate. He tells her that the crown not only represents his rule of the sea, but it also covers up his bald head. Going bald is, of course, a huge fear for many men, so I find it fascinating how Neptune's crown not only represents his iron-fisted rule, but also an insecurity related to him being a man. Not that women can't go bald, but it's often seen as a male-centric problem, as is being in a position of power over others, especially one where you are subjugating those below you. Let me spell it out for you. The symbol of his cruel authority is the same as male insecurity. And then when Plankton steals the crown, he goes absolutely insane. So fast forward to the next time we see SpongeBob. He's crying at the bar. He and Patrick then eat so much ice cream that they get drunk and get thrown out at 8 a.m. When SpongeBob wakes up, his sadness has turned into anger. He storms off to the Krusty Krab to tell off Mr. Krabs, but when he gets there, King Neptune is gearing up to bite and blast him for stealing the crown. SpongeBob immediately switches back to being his kind, selfless self. He begs Neptune to let him go get the crown back from Shell City to save his boss's life, but Neptune doesn't take him seriously. It's thanks to Mindy intervening that Neptune agrees to let SpongeBob and Patrick go. She points out how cute SpongeBob is to convince him though, which seems a little counterintuitive. It is interesting though that the one character in SpongeBob's corner supporting him doesn't even seem to take him that seriously. She gives them a magic bag of winds that they can use to help them on their journey. In order for them to prove their masculinity, they are given a bag of hot air. Amazing. I want to touch on Patrick's crush on Mindy here really quick. I talked a little bit earlier about how SpongeBob is written as both a child and an adult, both in the series and the movie. Patrick is the same, living independently while also behaving like a child. Mindy is explicitly meant to be a teenager. At first glance, this would make Patrick, whose age is ambiguous, seem a little weird, but we're just gonna focus on the childlike version of Patrick. But I think that this helps the movie sell itself as a coming-of-age story. And although when I first began writing this script, I was planning on glossing over this part, the more I think about it, the more I actually appreciate this inclusion. I will come back to it later though, when it becomes relevant again. So our heroes begin their journey in the paddy wagon. And they call attention to the fact that SpongeBob doesn't have a license, to which SpongeBob responds,
"You don't need a license to drive a sandwich."
I see this as part of SpongeBob's identity. Sure, he can't drive a boat like everyone else can, but give him a car that's built around a Krabby Patty? He's like Ryan Gosling up in here. I could use this as evidence for SpongeBob being autistic, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I need to make that argument. But linking a task that he struggles with to one of his interests and immediately succeeding at it is very telling. This ties into the extremely common occurrence of autistic people being infantilized by those around them, despite being completely capable. They just need to approach things differently sometimes. And it definitely supports the idea of SpongeBob being a nonconformist. I mean, there's a reason why there's so much crossover with neurodivergent people and queer people. But I think that's a topic for a full video, which I am not capable of making. And then the first people they meet after leaving town immediately put them down for being visibly different, despite their insistence on being men. Switching over to the video game, as you're leaving Bikini Bottom in the paddy wagon, you can see bulldozers and wrecking balls destroying parts of the city, and you can see them being replaced by monuments to plankton. In the next two levels, Mindy tasks SpongeBob and Patrick with destroying towers set up by Plankton to spread his propaganda. The only way for people to be swayed to the side of fascism is by having propaganda shoved down their throats. And the brainwashing bucket helmets shoved on their heads doesn't hurt either. Plankton is literally forcing everyone to be and think the same to serve his own ego. I mean, once he takes over Bikini Bottom, he renames it to Planktopolis. Before we move on, I want to also talk about how progression works in the video game. The main collectible is the Goofy Goober tokens. You collect these by doing both main and optional objectives, and at certain points throughout the game, Mindy will ask you to have a certain number collected to unlock a new move or whatever it is you need to progress. Now, I never needed to go back and get more because I'm a master of collecting everything in a game. I love this because the main way of progression is directly linked to the Goofy Goober, a representation of SpongeBob and Patrick proudly being themselves. You've probably also noticed me collecting these barbells. They are the method of upgrading SpongeBob and Patrick's skills throughout the game. You collect a certain amount and get a point, which you spend on an upgrade. How do you get them? Well, a lot are just scattered throughout the level, but you're gonna get the majority by defeating enemies and smashing crates. You get manliness points by breaking shit and killing people. This is definitely the weakest point in the video, since getting some kind of experience by defeating enemies is pretty standard video game stuff in any game that includes combat, but it still felt like it was worth mentioning. And almost all of SpongeBob and Patrick's voice lines during gameplay are talking about how manly and macho they feel doing this stuff.
These just ooze macho. Nothing like a little man type stuff.
How much of a man do I have to be? The manliness has landed.
How interesting is it, though, that the version of the story that focuses much more on violence is the one where the characters bring up how manly they are more often. And I should mention that while violence isn't a necessary part of masculinity, especially if you're a well-adjusted adult, it is hard to totally divorce the two concepts in our culture. And while toxic masculinity isn't the main topic of this video, I hope you can see how it's still very relevant to the conversation. I've brought up Plankton being a fascist earlier, and you know what fascists love? Being perceived as powerful and being perceived as normal. And being willing to hurt others to enforce that. I'm just gonna let you chew on that because this is not the video to talk about the relationship between fascism and patriarchy. But once again, I am not well read enough to do that topic justice in a full video. So let's get back to SpongeBob. So our heroes lose their car and have to sneak into the manliest, toughest bar around to steal the key back. They then get distracted by the bubbles getting squirted out by the soap dispenser in the bathroom. This leads to them having to literally force themselves not to sing along with the Goofy Goober theme song. They have to mask their true selves so they don't get beaten senseless by a bunch of real men. But speaking of these real men, over on the video game side of things, while you make your way through the bar as Patrick, you can find a hidden optional area. This is a platforming challenge where Patrick has to make his way through a secret disco section of the bar. I don't think that this was the intention of the writers of the movie, but it seems like the video game team envisioned it as a gay bar, or at least maybe a secret gay section. There's concept art for scrapped costumes for this level that features SpongeBob as a leather daddy and Patrick in a gimp suit. This isn't a high effort bit that I'm doing. You can literally unlock this art and look at it in the game. These were supposed to make them look tough and fit in here, which, considering the disco room in the back filled with dudes in masks and cowboy hats dancing, yeah, I think they do. Even in the most outwardly manly place the writers could think of, there is a queer community to be found. After escaping, SpongeBob and Patrick are laughing about their experience at the bar. But right as they're about to recognize the fact that they aren't exactly men, they get distracted by ice cream and chased by the frogfish, and lose their car in the process. At this point, they're ready to give up, but Mindy shows up to tell them what's going on in Bikini Bottom. This does not inspire confidence in our heroes. Neither does Mindy's corny believe in yourself speech. So she lies to them and gives them fake mustaches made out of seaweed and tells them that they're real men now. Of course, nothing has actually changed about them outside of them believing that they're real men and can do it. So they jump down into the fucked up, evil, monster-infested trench, and they get through it by singing show tunes and ham-boning. Worth mentioning that in the game they don't befriend the monsters at all, they just fight them. Of course, the game is less character-focused than the movie, but I do find it interesting that they're just killing these guys. They are then stopped by Dennis, a bounty hunter hired by Plankton. Dennis is every overly masculine stereotype we've seen up until this point. He wears a cowboy hat, he's got a motorcycle, he's got sunglasses, he's voiced by Alec Baldwin, he's a vicious, cold-blooded killer, and everything that SpongeBob and Patrick aren't. He tears away any illusion that they had that they were men and not bubble-blowing double babies. But before he kills SpongeBob and Patrick, he's stomped on by the Cyclops, a bigger and much scarier threat. The Cyclops brings them back to his lair, where he plans to dry them out and turn them into smelling knickknacks. Now, in their darkest hour, SpongeBob admits to himself and to Patrick that they're really just kids who were in over their heads. But then they realize that they really did make it to Shell City, which in reality is a beachside gift shop. And Neptune's crown is right there. They may have failed in the end, but at least they made it to Shell City. They did what everyone told them they couldn't, and for a couple of kids, that's pretty good. In what they believe to be their final moments, they sing the Goofy Goober theme song together one last time. And before they completely dry up, they shed a single heart-shaped tear, a symbol of their love for each other, their community, and being themselves. And then the tear drips down to the outlet where the heat lamp is plugged in. The lamp shorts out and the smoke rises up to activate the sprinkler system. SpongeBob and Patrick regain their color and come back to life, along with all of the Cyclops' previous victims. The thing that saved them and their community was being themselves in the face of death. unapologetically refusing to conform to society's expectations for them saved their lives. It gave the other victims the strength to fight back against their oppressor, and now they have to get back home before it's too late. They lose the magic bag of winds, but are given some help by David Hasselhoff. Now, I think we can all agree that Hasselhoff is a pretty masculine guy. And I actually love this, because aside from being a funny gag, it shows us that traditional masculinity can coexist with SpongeBob being himself. It's not a battle between traditional and nonconformist expressions. Instead, it's a battle to allow the nonconformists to be themselves without judgment or condemnation. We can work together, and that'll get us further than ever before. And after one final confrontation with Dennis, the Hasselhoff launches them down to the Krusty Krab 2 just in time to save Mr. Krabs. But like many oppressors in history, Plankton fights dirty. He drops a bucket helmet onto Neptune and commands him to kill SpongeBob. But SpongeBob gives a speech that I think I just have to play in full.
I guess you're right, Plankton. I am just a kid.
Of course I'm right. Okay, Neptune, time to kill.
And you know, I've been through a lot in the past 6 days, 5 minutes, 27.5 seconds. And if I've learned anything during that time, it's that you are who you are.
That's right. Okay, Neptune.
And no amount of mermaid magic, or managerial promotion, or some other third thing can make me anything more than what I really am inside. A kid.
That's great. Now get back against the wall.
But that's okay!
What? What's going on?
'Cause I did what everyone said a kid couldn't do. I made it to Shell City, and I beat the Cyclops, and I rode the Hasselhoff, and I brought the crown back!
All right, we get the point.
So yeah, I'm a kid, and I'm also a goofball, and a wingnut, and a knucklehead McSpazatron!
What's going on here?
But most of all, I'm...
Hey, settle down.
I'm...
Take it easy.
I'm...
What the scallop?
I'm a goofy goober!
And I think that's beautiful. No matter what box you're put into, you can accomplish whatever you want, and even protect the people you love. You can be who you are, even if that's a kid, and even if that's a goofy goober. The helmets force everyone to be the same, and once again, it's self-acceptance and the courage to be himself that gives SpongeBob the power to rescue everyone and break them out of their oppressive shells. Also, seeing Patrick in fishnets definitely adds to my whole gender nonconformity argument. Okay, look, I know I made fun of Mindy's stupid "you just gotta believe in yourself" speech from earlier, and that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. But that's the only way we're gonna get through this. If you can't believe in yourself, you can't fight for a better life. And at the bare minimum, you have to hope that a better future is possible. There will be no doom posting on this train. We are fighting for our lives and freedom to be ourselves. And if the only way to be inspired to do that is to look to SpongeBob SquarePants as inspiration, then that's what we're gonna do, goddammit. Now, speaking of Mindy, let's talk about Patrick's crush. Because Patrick is SpongeBob's closest peer, his crush on Mindy highlights SpongeBob's lack of a crush, which is supporting evidence of something that Steven Hillenburg once said about SpongeBob, and that is that he's asexual. Now, I know when Steven said this, he wasn't trying to champion LGBT representation in the media. In fact, he was directly denying accusations that SpongeBob was promoting a gay lifestyle. But that doesn't make what he said untrue, and like it or not, asexuals are a part of the LGBT community. SpongeBob is then, by definition, a queer character. His arc in this movie is about him learning to love and accept himself for who he is, not caring about what names people call him. He pursues his passions and fights for the people he cares about. It doesn't matter if he's a man, whatever that means at that particular moment. He's himself, and that's what's most important. At this point in the video, there's a good chance that you're screaming at the screen that they're just using man and grown-up interchangeably because SpongeBob's a guy. He's supposed to be a man. And the problem there is that gender and maturity aren't the same thing. There are, in fact, grown-up women. And I think that's the real disconnect here. Let's say you're a young boy. Your perception of what it means to act grown up is going to be less about actually being mature with your emotions and more about emulating the manly behaviors that you see adults, usually other men, doing. This is shown off in the dream sequence at the very beginning of the movie. This disconnect from what it actually means to be an adult versus being a man was actually the original idea for this video. But then it changed, and I'm kinda saying everything I had in mind for that version of the script right now. Because the way the movie exhibits this is very interesting. Because here's the thing, SpongeBob acts immature in the sense that he has childish interests. But he's a responsible and hard worker. He truly cares about his friends and is willing to put his life on the line to save them. And I think that's much more important to being an adult than going to the equivalent of Chuck E. Cheese's. I mean, you're like, what, 20, 30 minutes into a video about the SpongeBob SquarePants movie's deep queer meaning? When you grow up, you have to stop thinking like a child. Having a mustache and lifting weights is a child's understanding of what it means to be a man. It doesn't matter what your interests are or how you present yourself. What matters is what you think and what you do. It's about whether or not you treat others with kindness and respect. It's about working to achieve your goals. And most importantly, it's about truly being the person that you are and that you want to be without shame or guilt. After Mr. Krabs finally gives SpongeBob the promotion, Squidward has a line about how what SpongeBob wanted all along was within him the entire time. SpongeBob undercuts this for a joke, which goes to show that A, he's not perfect, and B, he is a cartoon character still. But I think Squidward has a point. SpongeBob deserved that manager job from the beginning. He had what it took the entire time. The movie was just proving it to everyone, and to himself as well. I hope that this video inspired you to go out there and be yourself, no matter what kings, monsters, or so-called evil geniuses stand in your way. Be who you are. I think I will too. Yeah, that's the elephant in the room, isn't it? God, I am like shaking recording this bit, and I'm completely home alone. There's no one else here, it's just me. But I've been working through a lot in the past few years, and it's taught me that you are who you are. And no amount of fear or hatred or shame is going to force me to hide who I really am. And that's okay, because I did everything that I was previously too scared to do. I called the doctor, and I quit my shitty job, and I actually opened up to my therapist about the things that I have dealt with since I was a child.
Alright, we get the point.
So, yeah, I'm autistic, and I'm also a freak, and a weirdo, and a complete loser.
What's going on here?
But most of all, I'm...
Hey, settle down. Take it easy.
What the scallop?! I'm trans. Yep, this is how I'm coming out. By rewriting the speech SpongeBob gives before singing Goofy Goober Rock. I don't know what you expected. If you're my mom watching this, just wait, we can pause the video and talk after it's over. I know you're either like, God, finally, it took you long enough. Or this is coming as a complete shock to you, and I'm very sorry, hopefully you're not having a heart attack. If you're anyone else watching, thanks. Like and subscribe, more videos are on the way. I'll be here, and I am not going anywhere. I've been fighting with myself too hard and for too long to be scared anymore. I'm gonna work my ass off to become who I want to be and to keep sharing my art and my feelings with the rest of the world. Thank you for watching. My pronouns are she, they. Please, as always, have yourselves a damn good one.